Welcome back. So after all of the economic problems of last year, you don't remember, intense load shedding, all of the other issues that we've seen, there is a little bit, just a little bit, of evidence of financial resilience. Numbers from the company BankservAfrica show that over December, there was a pretty high number of transactions. In other words, people were buying things. And that shows you that they had money to do that. Elize Kruger is an independent economist who's been looking at all of these numbers. Elize, good afternoon to you, and I really appreciate the time. This index is important because it shows us the number of transactions. What do these numbers tell us?
Yes, Stephen, it is a bit of good news that shows us that actually in December there was a moderate uptick in economic activity as measured by Bankserve's, I would say, electronic fund transfer payment stream. So it's important just to understand what the BETI is measuring. So it's measuring the value of EFT payments in and out of the bank accounts of South Africans, be it individuals or corporate. So the more activity in the bank accounts, we say imply more activity in the economy.
Is the number of transactions higher compared to, October and November, or is it higher compared to December the previous year?
It's higher both compared to November the previous month, about 2.7% higher, and then quite a nifty increase of about 11.4% compared to December last year. So in both respects, growth, mostly on the debit side. So on the debit side, month on month, we've seen strong growth in the order of 5.2%. So it shows that a lot of payments have been done during the course of the month, and one could link that partly due to the festive season.
Is it possible to know why there will be such a big growth, 11%, between one December and the next December? And I say this because, 2022, Elize, I don't need to remind you, 2022 was a tough year.
Yes, indeed. I think what could be maybe underlying to this trend is indeed the fact that there are more people using electronic fund transfers in their day-to-day economic activity. Just thinking, more online purchases that you've got an option to either use a credit card or you can do an EFT, an instant EFT. So that instant EFT would be reflected in the BETI as that's a part of the EFT payment stream. So it could be that there's more people moving in that direction. We've seen that also in November with the Black Friday sales, also the electronic payment sites starting to get more and more growth. So I think that as consumers and households become more savvy with online and with that type of way to pay for services.
I suppose the other question is that around the world there's a shift to use less cash, and people use less cash because it's safer to just tap it with a card or tap it with your phone or watch or whatever it is that you use. So I'm presuming that over time this number would really be going up.
Yes, indeed. I think that it's safe to assume that we will see more and more growth in this type of payment options. I've even recently noted that in Denmark, I think there was not a single bank robbery because there's no more, appeal for bank robbers to go into a bank. Less cash all over the world. So I think that trend will definitely continue.
We had a really intense period of load shedding last year, and you would have thought that that would have a big impact on the economy and that might lead to a poorer December, fewer transactions in December compared to the previous year. Is it possible to know at this stage if there's a direct correlation between intense load shedding, fewer transactions, and a weaker economy?
Let me say, Stephen, that over time we've seen a good correlation between GDP and the BETI. Now, in the past 6 months, before we've got this number for December, we have seen the BETI under pressure, and we have linked that, generally speaking, to the grim economic environment, be it load shedding, the floods we've had, strike at Transnet, the overall difficult economic circumstances of South Africa. But I would like to just bring one angle in, to also try and understand this blip that we've seen in the BETI, and that is the fact that the BETI reports the value of these transactions in real terms. So the impact of inflation is stripped out. And what we have seen, as you know, during the course of 2022 was quite a hectic increase in our consumer inflation rate, but reaching a level, say, upper turning point around about July. And from there onwards, we've seen a bit of a moderation. Now, the numbers we are looking at today is December's numbers, and there we also expect that the CPI and PPI would moderate further. So that is one reason why there's also a bit of a blip, which is a contributing factor, the fact that we've seen inflation moderating.
It shows you how careful you have to be with the numbers, doesn't it? Elize Kruger, thank you, independent economist, looking at those numbers from BankservAfrica.